For anyone who isn't familiar with the concept, a recursive translation is when something is taken from one language, translated to at least one more, and then converted back to the source language. The results can be quite interesting. Anyway, let's go.
What happened to Kate Kane? Kate's friends and family lost hope that Kate could still be found when a 25-year-old homeless man named Ryan Wilder encountered Kate in a batsuit. Desperate to stop being a victim, Ryan uses a suit of armor and continues through the streets of Gotham, taking down various members of a new gang called the False Face Society. Meanwhile, Jacob Kane and Luke Fox begin the search for Kate. Mary Hamilton, Nicole Kang, with the loss of another family member, and Sophie Moore silently struggles with an unfortunate first love, and Alice is angry that someone captured Kate before her. It can be replicated. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne returns under the cover of Kate, but the truth is that he wants to get his costume back. Batwoman and Bruce go head-to-head and clash. Crime story. After quickly putting on the batsuit, Ryan Wilder looks like himself to the daily challenges of life. Alice devises a clever new plan to get Gotham and Sophia's attention. Face-to-face with Alice once. Batgirl magic. As Ryan Wilder continues to prove himself as Batwoman, he takes on the challenge of any superhero, living a double life. Maria is still part of Ryan's team, and Luke still has reservations, especially when Ryan makes some changes and introduces a new batsuit. Meanwhile, Victor Zsasz fights his way through the streets of the city, and Captain Kane leads the Ravens in an attempt to stop Snakebite from spreading across Gotham. Sophia notices Alice's antics, and Sophia finds herself in an unexpected situation. Beautiful skin, blue eyes. As Batwoman tries to stop the Serpent's expansion into Gotham City, a chance encounter forces her to revisit her traumatic past. In his new role, Ryan Wilder is determined to make sure that others like him do not hide. Meanwhile, Kate struggles to believe her loved ones are alive, forcing an unexpected alliance and betrayal. Blood on the wall. Commander Kane and Agent Moore track down Batwoman to advance an infamous artifact that reveals the way to Ryan and Kate. Despite his reservations, Luke and Mary convince Ryan to accept the mission, causing tension within the Bat Squad to escalate. As Alice tries to satisfy the sinister Sophia, she slowly discovers that she doesn't remember everything about her time with Coriana. Do not revive. As Ryan Wilder's kryptonite injuries worsened, Batwoman's ability to defend Gotham City suffered. A growing interest in cultivating the Desert Rose of late puts the lives of Mary and Duke Kane in danger. Meanwhile, Alice's reunion with another Korian resident creates unexpected complications. Better stop digging! As Ryan's condition worsens, he asks for a code to kill Batwoman. Realizing the chance to avenge his mother's departure, Tatiana fills in the notebooks for her age with Coriana and Oshano. He had survived worse. As Alice continues to search for Kate, Batwoman's skills will be tested like never before. Sophie and Jacob see Corian. Lucas and Mary have an unexpected guest. Rule 1. Batwoman attacks Gotham's greatest enemy, and new information forces Kate to make tough decisions. Ryan's feelings for Angelique threaten his alliance with Luke and Maria, while Alice embarks on a twisted trip down memory lane. To leave good habits. As Batwoman works harder to defeat Black Mask, a new enemy emerges, drawing the Bat Squad's attention to a thorny problem in Gotham City. Empty of the mistakes of the past, Jacob embarks on a dangerous journey to exterminate. Alice and Julia find a common enemy. He will arrive alive. Tensions rise as Batwoman and Team Raven go after the Fake Face Company separately. As their efforts collide, Alice asks questions, and Sophie and Ryan find some common ground. Start to destroy itself. Ryan faces a difficult decision that could reveal her identity as Batwoman, which could lead to a rift in the team. Meanwhile, Black Mask begins to unravel Kate Kane's plan. Alice is reunited with someone from her past, and Sophia must decide where her loyalties lie. I will give you hints. Raven, Ryan, Mary, and Luke are also drawn into the criminal game as Sophie faces off against her new enemies. Meanwhile, the odds against Alice find themselves in danger, while Jacob goes back in time. Justice for all. Batwoman faces a new challenge as the Gotham City Serpents want more than a fixed following. Dangerous weapon. With Luke's life on the line at Fox, the aftermath of this devastating event pushes him to make some decisions that change the lives of those around him. Regeneration. When a familiar enemy invades Gotham, Batwoman and Maria find themselves dependent on each other more than ever. Alice has a new mission, and she gets an unexpected partner to join her. Kane, Kate. Batwoman begins the fight while Black Mask continues upstairs with Cersei at his heels. Alice and Sophia cross paths again. Ice Mod. She, Luke Fox, Maria Hamilton, and Sophia Moore must join forces when Black Mask rages on the streets of Gotham, and Ryan Wilder questions his status as a hero of the state. Meanwhile, Alice tries to save her sister, which is what Cersei will encounter again in an epic scene. Unexpected alliances and transformations will take place for Gotham City as we know it. The Payback Book, Chapter 1, Collateral Damage. Jefferson Pierce is still mourning the death of his old friend, Detective Henderson. Meanwhile, Gamby has an interesting opportunity. In the end, Jefferson and Lynn still couldn't see each other. The Recovery Book, Chapter 2, Unacceptable Losses. The war between the Cobra Gang and the 100 War continues, with tragic consequences. Meanwhile, Lynn continues her experiments. Both Lane and Jefferson have individual counseling sessions. The Restoration Book, Chapter 3, Despite All My Anger. Jefferson feels even more lost after a frustrating therapy session. Meanwhile, Anissa continues to care for Grace, who is still in a coma. Finally, Lynn makes her breakthrough. The Book of Redemption, Chapter 4, A Light in the Darkness. Jefferson visits Tobias and warns him to stay away from his family. The Book of Doom, Chapter 1, Collect the Fragments. Gambi supports Black Lightning when he goes on a special mission. Meanwhile, Grace tries to convince Anissa to let her keep it. The Book of Doom, Chapter 2, The Ship of Theseus. Jefferson crosses the line with Lane. Meanwhile, Anissa shares some important news. Finally, Tobias makes a sudden move. Painkiller. Khalil Payne is a young man on horseback with the guilt of his troubled past from his former life in the city of Freeland, where, as an enhanced killing machine known as the Painkiller, he was a member of Tobias Whedon's gang and armed by Constable Odell. And like shadows, after attempting to bury the darkest and deadliest part of his personality as a painkiller, Khalil wanders away from everyone he knows and loves to a new town, Akashi Valley, to find peace. But peace never comes. Scar guys like Khalil find and Painkiller easily. When his violent and devastating history ruins his perfect new beginning, Khalil returns to work with a new mission, to bring justice where he was punished. Confront and exploit your dark side. Painkiller. The Book of Doom, Chapter 3, Things Fall Apart. The FBI visits Jefferson. Meanwhile, Anissa surprises Grace. Book of Doom, Chapter 4, Rulers. Gambi warns the Pierce family of a potential crisis. The Book of Reunion, Chapter 1, The Revelation. Black Lightning sends a distress message to Gambi. Meanwhile, Lynn finds herself in serious trouble. The Book of Reunion, Chapter 2, Trial and Error. Jefferson accepts Khalil for his offer of help. Meanwhile, Lynn faces what could be the biggest decision of her life. Finally, Tobias continues to find out. The Book of Awakening, Chapter 1, Crossroads. Jefferson understands that sometimes recognizing a weakness can be a show of strength. Meanwhile, Tobias concentrates on ending the game. The Book of Awakening, Chapter 2, Conclusion. After 4 seasons, the groundbreaking, relevant, and thrilling series is coming to an end. All ends well. When Barry's quick rescue experiment fails, Nash Wells tries to save Flash and comes up with a dangerous plan. Meanwhile, Iris did something terrible in the Mirrorverse, and Cecil introduced Rosa Dillon. Speed of thought. When Barry suddenly found the ability to think on his feet, he tried to use his new gift to save Iris. While Barry is excited about his new power, Cisco is hesitant to trust him. Meanwhile, Eva must face a devastating truth. Mom. As Eva grows stronger, Barry and the party must find a way to stop her. They are shocked when an old friend, Sue Dearborn, risks his life to help them. Strong Main City. The Flash must deal with Abracadabra's sudden return to Central City. The villain has returned with a desire to take revenge and fix the match. Meanwhile, Allegra faced a predicament. Caitlin suspects something is wrong with Frost. Iris is forced to look back on a dark time in her past. Scared of me. When a new villain takes over Central City to wreak havoc and worry everyone, Barry knows he must face his greatest fears in order to defeat the villain. Meanwhile, Joe is surprised when Kristen Kramer from the governor of the City Logistics Commission visits the CCPD. Iris advises her father to find out why Kristen is really there. Caitlin and Frost argue about how to live their lives. The 90s. Cisco and Chester travel back in time and get stuck in 1998, repeating the same day over and over again. The key to home lies in Chester's childhood home, but he refuses to leave. Meanwhile, Iris connected to Speed Force. Growing pain. When an enemy moving across the ice blames Frost for a heinous crime, he must find a way to clear his name. Meanwhile, Barry and Iris have a surprise visit, and Joe continues to deal with Kristen Kramer. Man against Killer. As Frost faces unjust punishment for his past crimes, Caitlin does whatever it takes to save his sister. Meanwhile, Barry's efforts to save Nora's Speed Force lead to a surprise. Forever. After a devastating betrayal, Barry turns to the Well of Time for help. Meanwhile, Iris puts Team Citizen on a perilous path to find answers, and Cisco reveals his biggest fear to Camilla. Family Matters 1. Iris is pushed to the point where she is trying to reveal the hidden truth about Psyche. Meanwhile, Barry has begun a new training regimen, which could have disastrous consequences. Joe and Cisco make life-changing decisions. Family Matters 2. Barry and Iris team up to stop a dangerous force from destroying Central City. Goodbye vibes. Cisco and Camilla told the group that they were leaving Central City. However, Barry, Iris, and Caitlin don't have much time to search for news when a new version of Rainbow Raider arrives and Team OG Flash must unite at the last moment to save the city. Forgive. Cecil is forced to face his past in order to break out of the mental prison. Meanwhile, Chester fills out Cisco information but makes a mistake that puts Barry in grave danger. Joe investigates Kristen Kramer's former military ties and uncovers a disturbing truth. A ray of light. When Ultraviolet returns to Central City, Allegra is determined to find his cousin and has a change of heart. Meanwhile, Joe has proof that Kristen Kramer might not be as good a cop as she imagined. Enemies at the gate. As the Godspeed Army invades Central City, Barry and Iris must put their family plans on hold and focus on the immediate threat to their home. Meanwhile, Chillblaine has been released from prison and claims to be in re-education, but Frost remains suspicious. Priest of War. John Diggle arrives in Central City with a gun to help Barry stop God War. Meanwhile, Allegra's new deal with Ultraviolet is being tested, while Joe and Kristen Kramer are being watched by a former partner. Gilkey Bat 1. Barry and Iris congratulate their future children, Excess and Bart, only to have a terrible secret threaten the stability of their new family. Meanwhile, God's War has escalated and threatens to destroy the central city. Dilky Bat 2. The Flash recruits many Speed friends, including Iris and his future children, Bart and Nora West Allen, to end the War of Speed and defeat a dangerous new foe. Land Empire for Sarah Lance. After a night of celebration and defiance, the Fables soon discover that Sarah is missing. When trying to rescue him, the Fables are shocked to discover that he has been captured by aliens. Ava sends Rory and Bayrod on a trail that might find Sarah, while Constantine tries to work his magic. Meanwhile, Sarah will do everything she can to escape, including freeing the aliens in time, but they are shocked to learn who turns out to be one of her captors. Food. Stories. When Spooner boards, Ava hopes her special abilities will help them find the aliens scattered across time, which may eventually lead them to Sarah. The stories soon find themselves following the alien into 1950s San Bernardino and continue to fuel the city's madness. Zari informs Bayrod that she is ready to use the dotem, but Bayrod is not ready to share it, causing tension between them. Meanwhile, after a crash landing, Sarah tries to come up with a plan and meets none other than Amelia Earhart, who could be her ticket back home. Ex-Farmer. The characters find themselves in the year 2015 trying to defeat an alien warrior that leaves Zari with no choice but to join the battle with a folk song. Ava has finally had enough of Rory's behavior and, with Spooner's encouragement, gives her some tough love. Sarah fights off the attack but is helped by her family to find refuge. Meanwhile, Zari and Constantine have a much-needed conversation. Squid Bay. The stories are amazing when Rory takes over and manages to find a large alien location, but it also puts them in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Ava wants to interrogate the alien, but has to be kidnapped by Cubans and Russians who believe the biological warfare was sent by the Americans. The team's plan falls apart, leaving Nate and Zari working together to stop a nuclear disaster alongside JFK, while Bayrod tries to push their newfound friendship to stop Castro from starting a war. Meanwhile, with Spooner's help, Rory does a lot of nasty things that could have helped him find Sarah on a solo mission. Disciple of Satan. Since Astra is now mortal, it won't be difficult to adjust to the business world without Constantine's guidance. Frustrated and lonely, Astra makes a new friend who promises to help her, but her quest for an easy way out could have real repercussions for those close to her. Meanwhile, Sarah meets the person responsible for the kidnapping and tries to convince the others to help her escape. Gambit Bishop. It takes Mick, Wave Rider, and Kayla to try to find Sarah, but these enemies need each other to lead the survivors to a possible planet where Sarah is being held. After reporting the alien attack, the Legends return to their new headquarters in the Constantine Mansion, where Spooner and Astra attempt to bond with the alien. Zari is suspicious of Constantine's behavior, but won't be surprised if she discovers the truth. Meanwhile, Sarah hatches an escape plan using a spell to win Bishop over, but discovers something even more disturbing. Until the final part 2. When Ava passes out, Bayrod and Tails make a last-ditch effort to prevent Sarah from being kidnapped, even though times have changed. Sarah struggles with what she's just discovered about herself, but is also shocked when Rory finds her on a mysterious planet. With no time to waste, Sarah, Mick, and Gary hatch a plan to help take down Bishop. Meanwhile, Spooner imagined what his life would be like without stories. He had enlightened the West. When everyone finally gets back together, Tails finds himself looking for Nate to keep things calm while he's out in the Old West on a strange mission. After trying to keep things normal, Sarah reveals her secret to Ava and her team, leaving everyone in shock. Constantine turns to Gary to answer his question. Spooner and Astra are forced together despite their clashing personalities, which eventually leads to them combining their powers. Meanwhile, Zari shows an unusual interest in Bayrod's personal life. This is Gus. Bayrod is disappointed that the Legends forgot his birthday, so when they discover an alien spaceship in 2024 and it appears on TV, he thinks it's a surprise. Feeling guilty, Nate and Zari take on Bayrod, leading them to a successful concert, while Ava, Spooner, and Astra try to find the alien to plot the timeline, which proves to be a challenge. Meanwhile, Rory's behavior is a little strange, so Sarah and Gary set out to find out what happened, but Rory gets something unexpected from her daughter, Lita. Bad blood. Obsessed with regaining his powers, Constantine convinces Spooner to join him in his search for the source of power. Reunited at the end of the Spanish Civil War, Spooner forms an unexpected bond with someone who must protect him from everyone, including Constance. Now that they have a special guest aboard the Wave Rider, Nate, Zari, Bayrod, Gary, and Astra work together but face some growing problems along the way. Meanwhile, Sarah and Lita are worried about Rory's health, so they try to get him to take her seriously. Last frame. Before consulting Sarah, Astra, and Rory, Spooner goes against Mana's realm to return to the Wave Rider. But not everyone is happy with the plan as they feel something against them. Elsewhere, Nate plans a romantic date for him and Zari, but nothing comes of it. Meanwhile, Bayrod and Gary try to distract Ava from what's going on with the marriage. The panel opened. She's ready to return home to the Legend, but after Constantine accuses Gideon, she will revert to her old habit of keeping the ships fueled. As they try to have fun, tension builds, so Gary suggests they play a mystery crime game. Constantine decides to make the game more interesting, which causes Bayrod to worry about him, but is overruled by Zari. Meanwhile, Rory and Gary deal with an unexpected guest arriving on the Wave Rider. Silence on ultrasounds. As she watches the stories unfold with an unwanted guest in her custody, Ava struggles with a question. Rory struggles with a throbbing headache. Zari writes to Astra and Spooner helps her find out what's going on with Constantine. There will be chickens. When Asher and Spooner find themselves among the stowaways, they discover that Constantine is still chasing the Source Empire and is in 1920s Texas. With the rest of the legends in tow, they hatch a plan to help by using Rory as bait, which will also help you bond with someone special. Meanwhile, Spooner discovers some information about the past that he didn't expect. Mushroom Among Us. When Sarah discovers Bishop's plan, Ava convinces her that fairy tales should be embraced to help break the rules. Bayride comes up with an interesting plan that allows Sarah to reconnect with an old friend. Meanwhile, Sarah and Ava are planning a big fight, but need the team's help to pull it off. Reproduce. When Brainiac almost dies trying to stop Rex, Supergirl and the team rush to rescue him, engaging in an epic battle with Gam and Me. After a battle with Leviathan, Supergirl uses an obsidian platform to turn half the world into Rex, forcing them to love him no matter what terrible things he does, and obey him at all costs. Knowing this will put her brother in danger, Linda turns to the entire team, Alex, John, Dreamer, Kelly, and Brainiac, for help. But Supergirl realizes that the only way to stop Lex is to really not understand what you're sacrificing. Myself. Some good women. With the stakes higher than ever for Rex, Linda must decide how far she will go to stop her brother. Meanwhile, Supergirl and the team face challenges they've never faced before, pushing Alex to his limits. Phantom Menace. Supergirl finds new allies. Lennon and Rex vie for control of the Luthor Corporation. Lost Soul. Supergirl has a chance to escape the Phantom Zone, but it comes with some dangerous conditions. Meanwhile, Rena joins the Super Friends on a mission, but they disagree with her plan of action against the Ghost and ask if she's ready to join the team. Prom. Near and Brainy try to rescue Supergirl from the Phantom Zone in time to return to Kara's house in 2009. However, when their ship crashes on arrival, young Kara Danvers is the first to arrive on the scene. Meanwhile, a young reporter named Cat Grant sets his sights on Midvale, suspecting that the small town has a story to tell. Graduation again! Young Kara releases kryptonite for the first time. Near and Brainy are captured by aliens, and young Cat Grant may be the reason Supergirl is stuck in the Phantom Zone. Well done, Carla! When Supergirl and Zor-El return to National City, they decide to leave the Phantom Zone and enjoy superheroes together. His efforts failed miserably, creating an entirely new threat to National City. Dreamy! Fearing that something is wrong with her brother Orlando, who is in captivity, Kelly meets Joey, an orphaned alien boy who enters an orphanage. Kelly asks Kara to help her investigate, and they face abuse in prison. Meanwhile, Nixley interrupts Nia's dream and asks for her help. I still get up. When a building intended for low-income housing suddenly finds itself in danger of being sold to a large corporation, Supergirl intervenes. Supergirl hires Orlando to take over the city, but things get even worse when Nixley shows up. Meanwhile, Nia trains with her mother. Mixie in the middle. Supergirl and her team must stop Nixley from defeating a familiar face from Supergirl history, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mixie returns to explain Nixley's dark past to the super team. Meanwhile, Lennon wants to visit her mother's homeland in Ireland and deal with her past, but is surprised by the cold reaction of the small town. Blind area. Kelly is horrified when a building in Ormfell explodes, injuring several members of the community, including Joey. However, her fears quickly turn into frustration when she realizes that the hospital is overcrowded. People are getting worse and worse, and no one will come to her rescue, including Supergirl, who is busy fighting Nixley. Knowing that she can make a difference, Kelly embraces her power and fully embraces her role as a caregiver. Together with Supergirl, Alex, Diggle, and a team of Guardians, they pave the way for justice to be restored to a devastated community. Gloves. Supergirl and the team battle Nixley to retrieve the magical totem of courage. Supergirl and Nixley fight, each winning a piece of the totem, only to learn that whoever passes the test of courage first will be able to control them all. It's hard for me to do it. Magical thinking. Linda isn't sure she can use her magical powers to help Supergirl get a second totem from Nixley. William struggles to write a Super Friends story that will make both the hero and Andrea happy. Meanwhile, Kelly is overjoyed that Esme has found a new home, but something goes wrong and the girl's future is in jeopardy. Hope for tomorrow. Supergirl continues to fight Nixley for the remaining totems, but after Nixley kidnaps William, Supergirl realizes she must take a more proactive stance to keep National City safe. Meanwhile, Alex faces the biggest challenge of his life. Nightmare in Kunitachi. Kara created a dream story for Catco, but when the city is suddenly attacked by nightmarish monsters at the same time as the interview, she takes her life seriously and continues as both Kara and Supergirl. Dreamer must enlist the help of his sister Mauve to lead the search for the Dream Totem, which can defeat National City's nightmarish monsters. When two sisters meet face to face, old wounds resurface. I believe in what is called love. When Lex Luthor appears at Nixley's side, Supergirl and the team must deal with the emotional aftermath of facing two of their worst enemies at the same time. Alex plans the perfect proposal for Kelly, but the jobs keep falling apart. Truth or effect? Supergirl is determined to protect everyone from Rex and Nixley, so she's doing double duty, especially as Alex and Kelly's bachelor party is approaching. I managed to find time to enjoy my new family. Blaney receives devastating news and William confronts Andrea about Rex's recent cover-up. Last glass. After Nixley and Rex kidnap a loved one, Supergirl and the Super Friends do a terrible thing. An unexpected ally comes to the aid of the team. Head. Familiar faces from the past join Supergirl to stop Rex and Nixley once and for all. Meanwhile, Alex and Kelly prepare to walk down the aisle. Pilot. He follows the world's most famous superhero and comic book journalist as he deals with all the stress, strain, and complexities of being a working parent in today's society. Inheritance. As they adjust to their new life in Smallville, Lois and Clark make an important decision about their son. Meanwhile, tension between Lois and Morgan Edge begins to heat up. Finally, Lana Lang invited the Cushing Kents over for a barbecue. The benefits of not being a wallflower. Clark shared some of his Kryptonian history with Jordan and Jonathan during a family breakfast. Meanwhile, Lois and Chrissy dig deeper to discover the truth about Morgan Edge. Out of control. Sitting in the stands at a high school football game, Lois and Chrissy film Morgan Edge talking to Mayor Dean and Kyle Cushing, who are pulling fish out of water, seeing through this hypocritical attempt to win over the people from town. Meanwhile, Clark agrees to help Lois at the town hall meeting, but things turn tense when he finds himself pulled in two different directions. Ultimately, Jonathan has mixed feelings about Jordan's new position. Major Smallville landmarks. When Smallville holds its first fashion festival after Martha's death, Clark remembers what her mother meant to him and learned a lesson that helped him move on from her death. Meanwhile, Lois has made a breakthrough in her investigation of Morgan Edge. In the end, Kyle tries to reconnect with Lana, but she seems to have fallen back on his old ways. Broken promise. Clark reconsidered his decision to let Jordan play soccer. Meanwhile, Lois continues to investigate Morgan Edge and needs her trust in an unexpected ally. Iron Man. Clark struggles to help Jordan deal with his new powers. Meanwhile, Lois enlists Clark's help, which leads to an unexpected encounter. Hold a key. Clark realizes that Lois is about to break down and urges her to get help. Meanwhile, Jonathan finds himself in a dangerous situation. Eventually, Kyle encourages Sarah to audition for a school musical. Loyal citizens. Lois, Chrissy, and Clark team up to piece together what Smallville means to Morgan Edge. Mom, where are you? When Kyle starts acting strange, Lana reaches out to Lois and Clark. Meanwhile, Jonathan opens up to Jordan. In the end, Sarah storms off after accusing her mother of always covering up for her father. A brief space between tragic events. Clark makes a startling discovery about Morgan Edge. Through the Valley of Death. Lois and John Henry Irons can't seem to agree on the best way to stop Morgan Edge. Meanwhile, Jonathan encourages Jordan to focus on empowering himself and helping find his father. Finally, an old friend was brought in to help him find it. Fail safe. Superman visits Morgan Edge. Meanwhile, Lois and Chrissy are working on a story together. Finally, Jonathan found a welcome escape from a very stressful school day. Problem. Lois worries about Jordan as he and Sarah grow closer. Meanwhile, Clark comes to visit Lana. Eventually, Jonathan spends more and more time with John Henry, the last son of Krypton. Superman's worst nightmare comes true when Lois confronts Leslie Law. Meanwhile, Lana, Kyle, and Sarah agree to stay and help General Lane.
It's all the same thing. Thank you for the registration question?